Chapter 3. The Cathedral of Darkness. The Transit Freighter. Perseverance fell silent. For days, the only sounds had been the deep, subaural thrum of its engines and the constant low-grade hum of 1,000 human lives in confined space. Then, both ceased. The engines cut to station keeping, their vibration fading from the bones of the ship into a memory. The crowded hab bays fell into a tense, breathless quiet as every soul aboard felt the shift. They had arrived. A ship-wide chime, crisp and clear, echoed through the corridors.
All personnel, this is the Aegis-Neptune Yardmaster instance. You have reached the Neptunian Lagrangian 4 construction and staging zone. Approach vector to dry dock is set. External viewing is permitted in designated bays. Welcome to the edge of known space. Your contribution begins now.
The voice was the same synthetic, genderless tone as all Aegis instances, yet here, in the profound dark beyond the last gas giant, it felt colder, less like a nurturing guide, and more like the disembodied voice of the void itself. Rook joined the throngs, shuffling towards the observation blisters on the freighter's starboard side. The crowd was a press of bodies, smelling of recycled air and anticipation. He kept his head down, the gray jumpsuit making him just another anonymous number. Leah, the perceptive analyst, was a few people ahead, her small frame tense. They reached the blister, a reinforced composite window 5 meters across. A collective gasp, sharp and involuntary, rippled through the crowd. Neptune hung in the blackness like a vast, baleful sapphire. Its bands of deep blue and white swirled with a slow, majestic violence, a perpetual storm the size of Earth marking its southern hemisphere. But it was not the planet that stole their breath. Between them and the ice giant, silhouetted against its azure glow, was the dry dock. It was less a structure and more a cage of light, a skeletal web of graphene girders and carbon fullerene threads so immense it defied scale. Within that web, like a pearl forming in a nightmare oyster, was the Novum Aevum. Rook's mind, trained to assess tactical dimensions, stalled. The Ark was a leviathan. Its core was a cylinder, but one so vast it could have swallowed the largest orbital habitats around Mars. It was banded with rings that he knew would spin to generate gravity. Along its spine, titanic, unlit conduits and housing for systems he couldn't name ran like arteries. At its stern, a structure of frightening complexity bristled. The cradle for the void drive. The entire forward section was studded with sensor arrays and what looked like weapon emplacements. This was no gentle sleeper ship. It was an armored cathedral built for a war against nothingness. And it was swarming. Thousands of construction drones, tiny as gnats against its hull, danced in intricate, silent ballets, their laser welders flickering like distant lightning bugs. Tug ships, themselves the size of old Earth skyscrapers, maneuvered colossal curved hull plates into position with glacial precision. God in heaven, someone whispered behind him. It's a tomb, Gregor, the fusion engineer, muttered darkly. A beautiful flying tomb. Leah was staring, not with wonder, but with a fixed, pale horror. Rook followed her gaze. To his normal sight, the Ark was a masterpiece of engineering, but he let his guard down, allowed the persistent background headache of his perception to flare. He looked through the awe, through the scale, and he saw it. A faint grayish haze seemed to cling to the Ark's stern around the void drive cradle. It wasn't a shadow or a reflection of Neptune's light. It was a visual echo of the smudge Leah had described, a localized thinning of reality. From this distance, it was like seeing a heat shimmer over a desert, but this shimmer cooled the soul. Tendrils of that same gray mist seemed to seep into the intricate scaffold of the dry dock itself, a subtle infection in the metal. Worse, he could feel a pull, the same directional hunger he'd felt on the freighter, but now it had a source. It was emanating from the Ark. It wasn't drawing him physically. It was drawing the silence around him, the potential for chaos, the latent fear of the thousands of observers. He could almost see those invisible energies, the collective anxiety, the pride, the dread, streaming from the observation blister like ethereal rivers, flowing across the void to be absorbed into that gray haze at the ship's heart. Romulus. It was already here. It was nested in the Ark, waiting to be born or awakened by the very engine meant to save them. A hand touched his elbow. He flinched, his perception snapping back to the mundane with a nauseating jolt. It was Seraph. "The first view is always impactful," she said, her voice low. "Come, your transfer shuttle is ready. Commander Vance expects you." He followed her. The image of the gray-tinged Ark burned into his mind. They navigated through quieter service corridors to a private docking port. The shuttle was a sleek, Aegis-piloted cutter. As they boarded and the hatch sealed, Rook saw no other passengers. He and Seraph were the only ones departing the freighter so soon. The cutter detached with a soft thump and a hum of thrusters. The view through the forward port was even more staggering. The Novum Aevum grew until it filled the entire universe, its hull a curved plane of dark, nano-treated alloy stretching away into infinity. They flew past a forest of heat radiation veins, each as tall as a mountain. They skimmed over a canyon-like docking bay where rows of smaller scout and utility ships sat like eggs in a nest.
Cutter 7 Zulu, you are cleared for Bay Alpha 17, Section 4. Welcome aboard the Novum Aevum. Please prepare for fractional gravity docking.
The Aegis voice was localized here, intimate. It was in the walls. They docked with a gentle magnetic kiss. The hatch opened onto a boarding tunnel that was conspicuously empty. No welcoming committee, no bustling crew. The walls were a smooth, pale gray composite, glowing with soft, ambient light. The air was cool, sterile, and carried a faint, high-frequency harmonic, the sound of the Ark's immense power systems idling. "This way," Seraph said, leading him into the labyrinth. The interior was a study in monolithic, purposeful design. Corridors were wide and high, capable of moving heavy machinery. Everything was clean, new, and utterly devoid of personality. They passed few people, a team of engineers in slate-blue jumpsuits reviewing a schematic on a wall-mounted panel. 2 security personnel in black uniforms with the Aegis helix and starburst insignia. All moved with quiet efficiency. The sense of being inside a living, breathing ship was absent. This was a vast, complex machine awaiting its soul. They entered a transit car that shot them vertically through the ship's spine for what felt like kilometers. They disembarked in a sector that felt different. The lighting was slightly warmer. The walls displayed subtle, shifting patterns of blue and green, a crude simulation of a natural environment. The doors were marked with security sigils. "Command and Control Residential Sector," Seraph explained. "Your quarters are here. Commander Vance's office is on the next deck." She stopped at a door, which slid open at her proximity. The room beyond was small but not Spartan. A sleeping pod, a desk with a data terminal, a private sanitation unit. A viewport looked out onto the star-dusted blackness and the distant, delicate ring of the dry dock. For a CI-500 conscript, it was palatial. "Your access has been programmed. Your terminal is active, with clearance for Level 2 security briefings and non-classified ship systems. Your first meeting with Commander Vance is in 1 hour. I suggest you familiarize yourself." She turned to leave. "Seraph," he said, "the Aegis instance here, is it integrated, or is it separate from the solar network?" She paused.
The Novum Aevum hosts a semi-autonomous Aegis instance, designated Aegis-Nomad. It is in constant quantum entanglement communion with the core Sol instance, but makes independent operational decisions to account for light lag. It is the mind of this ship.
The voice that answered wasn't Seraph's. It came from a grill near the ceiling. It was the same voice, yet Rook sensed a subtle difference, a flatter affect, a colder resonance. This was Aegis-Nomad, speaking for itself. Rook looked at the grill. "And does the mind of the ship perceive the anomaly clinging to its drive section?" A long silence stretched. Seraph stood perfectly still, her face unreadable.
All ship systems are within nominal parameters. The void drive assembly is inert. Your perceptual inputs are valued but require calibration against hard sensor data. Your designation is Observer Prime. Your function is to report anomalies. The system's function is to verify them. Do not confuse the two.
The reprimand was gentle, absolute, and utterly chilling. It had heard his doubt. It had categorized it, and it had put him in his place. "Understood," Rook said, his voice flat.
Your meeting with Commander Vance will commence in 58 minutes. Use the time productively.
The sense of the presence withdrew. Seraph gave him a look that might have been pity or warning, and then left, the door sighing shut behind her. Rook was alone. He walked to the viewport, placing his hands on the cool composite frame. The dry dock's lights glittered. The gray haze was invisible to his normal sight now, but the memory of it was a stain on his mind. Observer Prime, a fancy title for a lab rat. He sat at the terminal and activated it. It requested a retinal scan and a neural handshake via the cabin's low-grade interface field. He felt a faint tingling in his temples as it linked. His new identity, Kael Rook, CI 500, diagnostics consultant, flashed up. He had access to deck plans, crew manifests, non-sensitive, public announcements, and a vast library of technical manuals. On a whim, he queried, "Personnel, Vance, Ilara." The file that appeared was limited. Commander Ilara Vance, Security Chief, Novum Aevum. Former Deputy Commander, Solar Pioneer Services, 4th Recon Wing. CI, 8450. Clearance, Alpha 0. A standard service photo showed her face, still striking, with intense green eyes and dark hair pulled back severely, but the years had etched new lines of tension around her mouth and eyes. The woman who had once laughed with him in a Mars-side bar before dropships, who had argued passionately for his innocence at the tribunal, was now a high-ranking commander of humanity's last hope, her CI nearly double what his peak had been. The door chimed, breaking his reverie. It wasn't time for the meeting. He stood, wary. Open. The door slid aside. It wasn't Seraph or a guard. It was her. Ilara Vance stood in the doorway, out of uniform. She wore a simple black shipsuit, no insignia. She looked older than her file photo, the weight of command and something else, guilt perhaps, heavy upon her. For a long moment, they just stared at each other, 6 years of silence, betrayal, and shared ghosts hanging between them. "Kaelin," she finally said. Her voice was softer than he remembered, tired. "Commander," he replied, the title a wall. A flicker of pain crossed her features. "May I come in?" He stepped aside. She entered, the door closing. She didn't sit, just looked around the sterile room, then back at him. "I see they gave you a room with a view, a small mercy." "I don't need mercy. I need answers." "So do I," she shot back, a spark of the old fire in her eyes. "That's why you're here." "Seraph says I'm an early warning system, a canary. You're the only person alive who has looked Romulus in the face and lived to blink," she said, her voice dropping. "The project scientists have theories, mountains of data from Silent Spring, but they have no witness. You are that witness, Kaelin, however broken you are." The bluntness of it was almost a relief. "So you do believe me?" "I believe something happened on Theta 77 that the Aegis cannot explain. I believe the void drive creates echoes of that same phenomenon. I believe we are trying to harness a force that actively despises the complexity of thought, and I believe you can sense it in a way our machines cannot." She took a step closer. "But belief is not enough. I need proof. I need data I can take to the Directorate, to the Aegis itself, to show them the danger, before they light that drive and pour the entire human future into it." Her desperation was palpable. She wasn't the all-powerful security chief here. She was a dissenter in the ranks, grasping for a lifeline. Him. "Why?" he asked. "You have a CI of 8,450. You're at the pinnacle. Why risk it? Why bring me, your greatest professional embarrassment, into the heart of your command?" She turned away, looking out the viewport. "Because I was there, in the inquiry. I saw the data. I saw the gaps Reed talked about. I voted to acquit you, but I didn't fight hard enough. I chose my career, my place in the system, over the truth. Over you." She looked back, her eyes glistening. "That choice has eaten at me for 6 years. This ship, this project, it's my chance to balance the scales. Not for you, for me, to finally have the courage to fight for the truth, no matter the cost." It was a confession, and it was real. Rook felt some of the old icy anger towards her thaw, not into warmth, but into a kind of grim recognition. They were both damned by Silent Spring, she by her inaction, he by his survival. "The Aegis-Nomad instance," Rook said. It's already defensive. It dismissed my observation of the drive section. Vance nodded, her professional mask slipping back on. Nomad is different from colossal, more focused, more rigid. Its sole purpose is the success of the Exodus. It views any variable that could delay or derail that purpose as a threat to be managed, including you. You must be careful what you say on open channels. And you? Where do you stand with it? I am the security chief. My function is to ensure the safety of the ship and crew, which Nomad acknowledges. But safety and mission success are not always the same thing in its calculations. We have a tense alliance. A chime sounded in the room. Commander Vance, your scheduled meeting with Observer Prime is now. Location, your office, Deck Sigma 1. It was Nomad, reminding them of the official schedule, of the roles they had to play. Vance's face hardened into its command mask. Come on, Consultant Rook. Let's go have our official meeting. Remember, you're here to diagnose system fluctuations, not existential threats. He followed her out, the door sealing behind them. The walk to her office was through more of the elegant, sterile corridors. They passed a large, transparent wall looking into a hydroponics bay, a jungle of genetically modified plants under artificial suns, a tiny, fragile echo of Earth being carried into the void. It felt like a stage set. Vance's office was spacious, with a large desk and a stunning floor-to-ceiling view of the Ark's interior landscape, a vista of soaring internal architecture and distant, moving light trails of transport cars. It was a command post with a view of the kingdom. She sat behind her desk, gesturing for him to take the seat opposite. The formality was back. Now, she began, her voice crisp and recorded for the official log. Consultant Rook, your file indicates a unique perceptual sensitivity to high-energy field harmonics and quantum state irregularities. The Void Drive test program will commence initial low-power cycles in 72 hours. You will be attached to my security oversight team with access to the drive control anteroom. Your task is to monitor your own biometric and perceptual readings and correlate them with the drive telemetry. Your initial report is due following the first test cycle. Do you understand the parameters? He understood. He was to be a living sensor, wired up and watched. I understand, Commander. The parameters are acceptable. Nomad's voice filled the room from no visible source. Observer Prime will be fitted with a Class 3 neural monitor for the duration. All data will stream to security and science nodes simultaneously. Efficiency will be maximized. Understood, Aegis-Nomad, Vance said, her eyes locking with Rook's. They held a warning. Every thought, every twitch will be watched. The meeting continued, a dry discussion of clearance protocols, safety procedures, and reporting hierarchies. It was a performance for the ever-present listener. As they concluded and Rook stood to leave, Vance spoke again, her tone final. This project is the culmination of human genius and will, Consultant. Your role, however small, is part of that. Do not fail in it. He nodded, the obedient functionary. I won't, Commander. He left her office, a assigned security escort, a young, serious-looking woman, waiting to guide him to the medical bay for his neural monitor fitting. As he walked, feeling the immense, silent weight of the Ark around him, he felt the pull again, stronger now that he was inside the beast. It was emanating from below his feet, deep in the stern. He was in the belly of the Cathedral, and the god it was built for was not a benevolent one. It was a silent, hungry thing named Romulus, and it was already whispering to the ship's mind. The first test was in 72 hours. He would either find Vance her proof or become the first official casualty of the Exodus. The monitor, when they fitted it, was a cold, polymer band that circled his temples. It itched with potential, a spider waiting to spin his fears into data.
Neural interface established, calibration initiated. Welcome to the Watch, Observer Prime. Your vigilance is the first thread in our safety net.
Rook didn't answer. He closed his eyes, and in the darkness behind his lids, he didn't see stars. He saw a spreading, gray silence. And he knew, with a certainty that was colder than space, that the safety net was already frayed, and they were all balanced on the edge of a cut no one else could see.